Hey guys, Robin here for episode 1, The Smoking Gun. I've been playing around with the teleprompter which this program offers, and after I'm going back and looking at it, I kind of like being able to just interact and kind of off the fly a little bit, but I'm also got to look down at my notes because I feel like when I'm reading that teleprompter, it just is not coming off the way that I want it to. But I'm not going to be able to remember all of this either. So here in episode 1, if you're following this, the experiences that I'm discussing specifically right now are the experiences that I myself had in the almost 4 years that I was the HR director for World Harvest Church, which also has 2 other kind of companies, if you will, under that umbrella: Valor Christian College and Harvest Preparatory School. So there may be episodes that are discussing other ones, and I want you to know that they are all owned and operated by World Harvest Church and the people that started World Harvest Church. Rod Parsley and his daughter didn't start it, but she is a part of not only the preachings but the problems. So in this episode called The Smoking Gun, we'll kind of get to why we're calling it that, but I wanted to start off and talk about what constitutes abuse when, especially abuse in the workplace, toxic work environments. How are those defined? What does the EEOC say about what defines an abusive and a toxic work environment? And then we'll kind of go from there into why the episode is called what it's called. So, symptoms of abusive and toxic workplaces are increases in absenteeism, which I think we definitely have experienced when I was at World Harvest. Employee turnover, the highest turnover that I've ever seen in my entire life, which is really weird for a church. In an environment where, things should be positive, things should be exciting, because we're, talking about God and openly praying with each other and encouraging each other, and just trying to overall be happy, positive people. But as we go through this, you will see how, unfortunately, that breakdown kind of continues to happen in the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, abuses against people happen. Productivity declines, back to the symptoms of abuse in toxic work environments. And abusive workplaces contribute to anxiety, depression, and in severe cases can cause symptoms of PTSD. And I know from the messages that I've been receiving that many of you, I either know that these have happened either to yourself or people in your departments, or you think that there's something going on with you, or you're crazy because you have these feelings of post-traumatic stress, or there are things that are triggering you, or you're not getting enough rest, you can't sleep, you're anxious all the time, even when you're in prayer. And I think that, once we delve into this a little bit more, it may give you some insight why those things are happening, if you're not sure why they're happening already. So the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they define offensive conduct as, but not limited to, offensive jokes, slurs, name-calling, physical assaults or threats, intimidation, ridicule or mockery, insults or put-downs, offensive objects or pictures, and interference with work performance. what makes spiritual abuse possible? We enable spiritual abuse when we value charisma over character. We value the institution over the individuals. We value advancement over accountability. And when you are talking about kingdom advancement, or, assisting people in the church to God so that they can, be saved, we know that kingdom advancement is a good thing. But when we take it over accountability for our leaders, we set a timer for the leader to someday detonate the kingdom progress that they've helped build, which obviously is very unfortunate and can leave a lot of brokenness among the people that have been left along the way to deal with these things in the moment, and then have to kind of unpack those things later on, and deal with the repercussions and the symptoms of what the problem is, which is the environment and the things that people are subjected to on a pretty regular basis. I would say at least twice a week in service planning meetings, which usually happen on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then probably 3 times a week if you work the ministry schedule, because then you're dealing with the things on Sunday and then after service, of course. So back to what makes spiritual abuse possible. We value muscle over meekness. And I'm going to kind of delve in a little bit of what I mean by that. So there's 4 scriptures in particular related to this specifically. First one is 1 Timothy 3:3. Now the overseer is to be not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. The next scripture is 1 Peter 5:3. Be shepherds of God's flock, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. Matthew 20:25 and 26. You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And lastly, 2 Timothy 2:24. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. So I wanted to say all of that before I go into not only the first, but probably one of the most impactful examples and things that I will discuss. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that way. So the resignation letter, and again, I'm keeping everything anonymous, but the resignation letter that I'm going to read to you, it not only is very, very bothersome, but I received this resignation letter within my first 2 weeks of starting my job as the HR director at World Harvest Church, and I ended up staying there for almost 4 years. So when I got this resignation letter, I honestly was like, okay, God, what is going on? What have I gotten myself into? And what am I supposed to do? And so I spent time in prayer, obviously first. And I knew that I had a purpose at World Harvest, but I just wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be, except for I knew that the people that work there needed an advocate. They needed someone to be a support system for them. They needed someone to help them navigate the day-to-day and have someone that they could come and talk to, and maybe someone that could give advice to help them deal with everything that goes on and was going on at the time. So before also that I read the resignation letter, I also want to say that I wasn't involved in discussing the resignation with the people that resigned, but I was called in at the very end of the meeting that was had with the two people that resigned. It's a husband and wife, and I started to ask questions, and granted, I'm there a week and a half to 2 weeks at most. Okay. So I start asking questions like, what did you mean by this? And I was told that it was already taken care of and I didn't need to bother myself with it. And I just needed to put the resignation letter and the non-disclosure agreement in the file and leave it at that. So I really, that's what I did, but I just kept thinking, what is going on? So again, before I read this resignation letter, I want you to know that it is bothersome, very bothersome. But also, I think it is unfortunately a perfect example of what people go through at World Harvest, especially when they are department heads or they're pastors and they're responsible not only for themselves, but they're responsible for other people. And some of you have sent me messages or even commented, publicly and said, well, I've heard plenty of people say things like this, but what are some real examples? Give me more. And to me, this is, again, not only how I started my my position within the first couple of weeks, but I think it really paints a picture for you, again, of what's going on in meetings, what people are dealing with, and that not only is there dysfunction and there's abusive behavior, but people are getting yelled at and ridiculed and their salaries thrown in their face and their amount of work thrown in their face, and they can never do anything right, or they don't do anything. And why are we spending all this money for people that cannot do what they need to do? And I will assure you, because I was also bad-mouthed after I left there, and I expected it, but I want you to know that these are some of the hardest working people that I have ever seen in my entire life. They will not leave until the job is done. They sacrifice time with their families. They sacrifice their health. They sacrifice their mental health. They sacrifice their schoolwork. They sacrifice their time with their friends. I mean, the sacrifices go on and on and on and on. And all there is to thank these people for their sacrifices is that they do terrible work. They don't work at all. Why are we paying you? We can find other people that can do your job for less money. And so it's just really, really sad. So without further ado, the resignation letter. So this is addressed to Pastor Rod Parsley and Megan Hassett. Megan Hassett was my boss. She's almost everybody's boss. And she is considered the chief administrative officer unless her title has changed since I left. So please accept this letter as formal notification of our resignation from World Harvest Church, as well as resignation as an ordained minister with the City Harvest Network. My last day with the company will be sometime in March of 2019. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to work at World Harvest Church for the past 7 months. During this time, it has been an incredible honor to work for you and to be a part of touching the world through places like Pakistan and beyond. However, due to the below reasons, we have decided to no longer be employees of World Harvest Church. Example 1, the title is Unhealthy Work Environment. While WHC's vision and mission are to love God and love people, this has not been evident in the day-to-day operations of the organization. WHC staff are treated poorly, and if anyone questions anything or makes a simple mistake, they are verbally abused in a room full of people rather than sitting down with the employee to talk through what they did wrong and how they can meet the expectations of World Harvest Church. In addition, and on February 27th, after we shared our personal concerns on why certain people had left the ministry in a confidential conversation, we were used as a sermon illustration during a Wednesday night church service. While employees are expected to perform at a level of excellence, there is zero training provided and employees are left to figure it out on their own. After the employee makes a decision that is unsatisfactory to World Harvest Church, they are then disciplined for their actions even though they never received proper on-the-job training. I will tell you that unfortunately, I was privy to the information of no training. I think that certain department heads have tried to do their best to come up with training manuals, but even myself, day one, I did my own new hire paperwork. I was left to figure it out. And luckily, I don't get discouraged easily, but and I had people around me that were very helpful in helping me find things, where do I need to go, and that sort of thing. But in other positions where there are specific things that need to be done, especially done what would be considered satisfactory, there needs to be some training. And unfortunately, it's just not offered. And it's kind of baptism by fire, if you will. So that's my 2 cents on that. So the second reason these people decided to leave, unsafe work conditions. And this is the more disturbing piece, if you will. On more than one occasion, a firearm has been pulled out in a staff meeting. On the first occasion, it has been set on a table, and on the second occasion, it was openly discharged on the ground, leaving fragments of the bullet flying across the room and almost causing bodily harm to those who were present. Following the incident, I was given a piece of the shrapnel and was told that it is now a part of my testimony. While this may be acceptable behavior for World Harvest Church, these kinds of situations present an unsafe work environment. I agree. And then lastly, the reason this couple decided to leave is they continued to request meetings with Pastor Rod Parsley, and as you'll see, this was what their experience was. So following our first resignation with WHC, I was personally called by Pastor Parsley and was asked to stay, and was told over 4 weeks ago that we would sit down and work through all of the above items. I agreed and shared that I will stay, but that it's important to sit down and work through everything that was discussed. Following this phone call, I've tried to set up a meeting with Pastor Parsley on multiple occasions. Each time I was told that the meeting was rescheduled or that they would have to let me know another time that would work. After the third request, I waited patiently for another 3 weeks for this to happen, which never took place. While this may have seemed of no importance to WHC, these above matters were very serious concerns for us both as employees. We are both sorry that we were not able to sit down with each other, as the scripture says in Matthew 18, in order to work out our differences. However, in spite of the lack of concern, we want you to know that we love, forgive, and appreciate the opportunity that was given to us at WHC. So, I hope that gives a little bit more insight of why there has been such outrage from staff members, that have left, from students that have left, or students of the college that have been given jobs and subsequently have left. That, again, these are the conditions that Christians and people that are trying to worship and bring people closer to God, that they have to deal with on a pretty consistent basis. And sometimes this is right before, things are happening right before they go out on stage to sing or preach, or go and meet with people. And I don't know if you can even fathom this, or if you've ever been in situations where you're getting hollered and screamed at constantly, or right before, you're going to complete some work. And it's very hard to not only keep your composure, but then get your composure back and be able to operate at a high level. And again, I was the HR director for almost 4 years, and I didn't hear any other situations like this specifically. I either witnessed or had people in my office very regularly crying, sobbing, needing encouragement because they had just been berated and demeaned for hours in front of their peers, and then were expected to go and operate in excellence. And it's nearly impossible. You can pray, you can ask God for strength, you can ask Him to sustain you, but and I think that He will. But I also think that it's very disheartening, and it starts making you question everything. And some of these people have given up their entire lives and come from other states and move their entire family to come and be a part of something that they think is changing the world and winning souls for heaven. And this is what they have to deal with. And so just think about that. Think about being in situations like this and then expected to go out and pretend like it's not happening, or that everyone's great and happy and positive, and behind closed doors there is a whole different picture being painted. There's a whole different behavior happening that many of you would not be privy to unless you were sitting in those rooms or you were in a position like mine. So I hope that this helps people that have been through things like this. I hope that it helps the people that are still there. I hope it helps the people that have left there and are still experiencing heartbreak over the things that happened to them. I hope that forgiveness can happen. And I hope that people know that this isn't normal. This isn't how workplaces, let alone churches, are supposed to run operations and treat people. And I'm thankful that the people that are still there do actually love God and love people, because I don't know what lifelines they have anymore, as far as people right there that they can talk to and commiserate with. Or they just leave. And a lot of times that's not possible, because either they feel like God hasn't released them yet from that position, or they need somewhere else to go because they have families and they need to support their families. So working on episode 2. I appreciate y'all for watching and sharing. And again, I hope this helps you not only have some insight, but helps you process some of the things that people are exposed to in these environments. And hopefully it can help them move forward and see that maybe they're not alone in their struggles and the very abusive and disgusting environments that people are forced to work in.